Hi everyone and welcome back to my At Silk. Today I'm tackling the ballpoint pen and the no erase challenge, and I've sort of combined these two art challenges to create a challenge combo. So the materials that I'm going to be using today are a pink ballpoint pen and a sheet of my Canson mixed media paper, and this paper is 250 grams I think. So the first thing I did was I attached the paper, I taped it down onto a piece of cardboard, piece of board, and I do that because I like to work on I like the feel of the cardboard surface when I'm drawing. I don't like to just put paper directly onto my desk, and I also like the way that once I finish the drawing and taken up the masking tape, you end up with a really nice white border all the way around. So that's why I tape the drawing down. I'm just using the ballpoint pen. So I've been wanting to do the ballpoint pen challenge for ages. It's been on my video list for the last 6 months at least, and I have a lot of ballpoint pens around. I use black ballpoint pens all the time when I'm sketching, and so I guess I never felt very inspired to do a full piece with them until last week when somebody handed me this pink ballpoint pen, and I had almost, I would just spent a few sort of seconds staring at the pink pen, and I thought, well, now I have to do this challenge. I've got to do it now while I have this pen, while this pen has ink in it, because if I waited a couple of months more, I would use up that pen. And it was such a lovely pen. I loved the shade of pink, and it was just a really lovely pen. It wrote really well and sketched really well. I can't remember offhand what the name of the pen was. I think it was Ink Joy, Paper Matte, Ink Joy, or something like that. I'll put a note in the description box. I'll go look it up in a minute. But anyway, I just really loved using this pen, and I thought, well, now I must do my ballpoint challenge piece. And I also thought it would make a really fun piece and a really fun video because it's all in pink. And I haven't seen many ballpoint pen challenges where people use a pink pen. I knew I was doing the ballpoint pen challenge, but as I mentioned earlier, I use ballpoint pens a lot to sketch with and to do thumbnails with, to do rough concept art, to do all that sort of stuff. I use ballpoint pens a lot, so I'm very used to working with them, and I always have several black ones around on my desk. So that using the pen itself wasn't going to be much of a challenge for me. So I thought, in order to make it more challenging, I would combine it with the no erase challenge. And for me, the no erase challenge was much more of a challenge because I erase a lot. I do a lot of sketching, a lot of studies, a lot of erasing, and just the idea of not being able to do a pencil sketch first underneath the drawing made me feel that this challenge would be more challenging, but also I felt that this piece could be quite nerve-wracking and just quite stressful for me to work on because I couldn't do my under pencil sketch. But as it turned out, actually I really loved working on this piece, and it was a lot less stressful than what I was expecting. I just sort of started in the corners making the daisy border, and I started sketching out the girl. I was a little worried when it came to the face because normally I rub out the eyes and the nose and stuff, but with this it just flowed so nicely that day. So I really enjoyed working on this challenge. It was lots of fun, and I just loved the colour of the pen. And as for the layout, I decided to do flowers because it's spring at the moment and I seem to be drawing nothing but flowers right now, and I did this fun layout with the daisies around the outside, the girl in the middle, and I did some patterned or sort of zentangled leaves in the background because one of the things I wanted to do, I didn't want to just do a sketch. I didn't want to do a ballpoint pen sketch, I wanted to do a ballpoint pen finished illustration. So I wanted to make an illustration that I would be proud enough of to make prints of, or that I would be proud enough of to kind of use, or to actually to be a finished illustration. And I really liked how this piece turned out, and actually because I used only one colour, it's also a bit like a monochrome challenge as well. It's like the one colour challenge as well. In fact, this is like 3 challenges all in one here. So I found that I was able to get several different variations in tone using the same pen. So first of all, when I was sketching my first layers out, I found that I could get a very, very light layer by pressing very lightly with the pen. So when it came to drawing the leaves in the background, and in particular the face, because I did the face guidelines, I sketched really, really lightly so that you would hardly see the lines when I finished. And then obviously when I was doing the hair and the rest of the piece, if I pressed right hard all the way down on the pen, then I would get a much darker line, and the pen layered really well, so I could go over things again and again to get a much darker line. Then the last thing I did to create a much lighter tone was that I used a bit of water and a paintbrush, as you can see here, to shift some of the ink. And what I did was I took a piece of plastic, I think it was an old ruler, an old plastic ruler, and I scribbled the pen onto the ruler, and then I used the paintbrush to pick up the ink and to spread it on the paper. Now this had limited success. Yes, I was able to shift some of the ink, but I could feel from the way the water and the ink didn't like each other very much. Now it did work for what I wanted to do, and for the face it was essential that I could get a much softer colour, because I like how the shading on the face turned out using this technique, but it's not one that I would probably use again, because I kind of ruined the surface of the ruler by scribbling on it, and you had to pick up when I was scribbling on the ruler. I could only shift the ink if I put water on it almost immediately, because it dried very, very quickly. So I had to work really quickly when I was doing that section. And I also found that not all the ink would shift, so my ruler is now permanently stained with all these scribble marks. Not that it's a problem, I don't really mind that, but I couldn't get much more colour out than what I got. So I think for shifting the ballpoint pen ink with water, what you see here is pretty much the limits of what I could achieve using that particular technique. Now, as I said, it's not something that I would continue doing, but for this piece, in order just to get the different tones, the different variations of the pink colour, I think it worked really well, and it was an experiment. I think that's a big part of what these challenges are for and what they encourage. They encourage you to experiment, to push your art supplies, to see what they can do. And one of the other things I was really trying to achieve with this piece is to get different texture looks. So obviously I used a lot of lines in the hair, and then I used different sort of flicking motions when I was doing the daisies. I did some cross hatching in some of them, and then when I came to doing the background, I drew hundreds and hundreds of little tiny swirls in the leaves, and then I did different sort of lines and cross hatching just to try and because I wanted it to be a very detailed piece. Detailed was my main objective with this, but at the same time I wanted the face to stand out enough, and because it's all one colour, I had to be kind of careful. So I found that by using completely different shapes and texture helped the face to stand out from the background, because this is all one colour. I'm using the same pen, but by using the pen strokes in different ways, I found that I was able to achieve the different layers, to achieve the clarity of the layers, in other words. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. It's quite hard sometimes trying to put words to these thoughts. I think the texture in the end is part of what, for me, makes this piece work so well. Just by using the strokes in a different way, and I think that's quite an interesting. It's something that I learned. Well, I knew a little bit already, but I felt I learnt it even more when I was working on this piece, that in future you don't need lots of different colours to achieve different to achieve different looks within the same piece. And I thought, for me, it was one of the really nice things about working on this piece, is that it just helped me to really approach the line art and the colouring in a really different way. So instead of focusing on different colour variations and different shades and the colour palette, here I was focusing on texture and focusing on my strokes and just trying to get variation. And I think that was really important for me to do, and it was really fun, and it was a good kind of little art lesson, I think. This is the finished piece. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of this challenge combo down below, and let me know if you use ballpoint pens, or as we call, well, I always called them biros. I don't know whether they're called that anywhere else, but we call them biros here. And I love using them. Do you guys love using ballpoint pens as well? This particular brand that I'm using here, which I will put a link, put the name of in the description box, I know they come in different colours, so I'm really tempted to get a set of them, and I always want to do some more art just using them, and to get to focus on these sort of one colour pieces and to have some fun with doing some different layouts. Anyway, so I hope, as I said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time.